Want to know how elite tax advisors win the due diligence game to satisfy ultra-high net worth clients who expect the very best? Welcome to the Due Diligence Project podcast, where you get a chance to learn from the elite CPAs, virtual family office professionals, and tax specialists who are doing just that. We'll uncover their insider secrets on how they are dominating their competition, vetting new ideas, and supercharging their due diligence process to deliver extraordinary results. Bringing his 25 plus years of experience with top tax professionals across the country, please welcome your host, Alex Sunkin.
Welcome everybody to the Due Diligence Project podcast. Today, a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Richard Wilson, the founder of the Family Office Club. Richard is the leader, one of the leaders in our space, if not the leader of the family office community. Richard and I have known each other for many years. And in fact, I remember speaking to you, Richard, many years ago and talking about your community, the community where you were just building it at the time. It was already growing very, very quickly. And it's amazing to see how far you've grown. And it's a privilege today to interview you because you're one of the leaders that I kind of look to and gathered insight and leadership from and watched you as a trailblazer to see how you were building your family office community. As we were building our community of elite CPAs and family offices on the tax planning side, we really looked at you as a model of what you were doing with your family offices on the investment side. And so today I want to just kind of jump in your head. And I know there's a bunch of video of you out there already, but I want to kind of shine a light into what you're doing that maybe a lot of people don't understand and dive in a little bit deeper. So thanks for joining us, my friend.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me here, Alex. Appreciate it.
No, so let's get into this. So how did you get started with family offices? Like what got you into it?
Yeah, so I grew up around my father raising over $1 billion from hospitals and donors for endowments and a cancer division of a hospital or something or university. And I grew up around that. I also grew up starting businesses. And then when I got done with my undergrad, I worked in risk consulting, and that paid six figures and paid for my MBA, but I was just bored out of my mind. So I had the choice of going into commercial real estate or investments, because at age 23, who else was going to pay me $100,000 a year? Only like eat what you kill type jobs. So I went to the investment world, and while raising capital for hedge funds, I found I could only take an emerging manager to a family office or someone who was ultra wealthy. The institutions wouldn't look at them. They didn't have enough AUM, and a little high net worth investor wasn't accredited or couldn't write a big enough check. And so I decided, okay, I'm only going to call on family offices. Found that nearly impossible. And so I said to myself, why is no one being a trail guide to me? So I started writing about the industry, and every time I met with the family office, I learned something and share about it online anonymously so I wouldn't violate their privacy. And it really all took off from there. So that was 13 years ago. And now, I've written 13 books and spoken 250 times and hosted 150 of our own live events, and just built up a lot of thought leadership and just listened to what people were asking for, and built up a 15-person company so far, kind of serving the niche.
Yeah, and then let's just jump in. I mean, you're doing a lot with family offices. You've really been building, which is what I love. I mean, I love watching you continue to improve on what you're already doing, because even though you have this leadership position established, that's not enough for you. You're trying to tinker and tweak and keep making it grow. But what do you think is at the center of your success? And talk about, what you enjoy most about in terms of building that network and what you're getting out of it.
Sure. I grew up playing a lot of sports, and I also grew up starting businesses that didn't always work. I had like one that worked well, and otherwise, I was in high school, I was calling through the school directory and selling my friends' parents on long distance telephone service and stuff of that nature. And I think just playing sports made me very focused and added to like a work ethic. And I think that knowing...
What sport did you play? Or what sport?
I played soccer, water polo. Those were the two sports I liked the best. Yeah. And I think just knowing that once I saw there was this window of family offices and there's no one else really being a thought leader, or not very many people being a thought leader back in 2007. And I realized that no matter how long it took, if I could be a top 3 or top 5 player globally, or even just in the US in that area, that the rewards would be multifold. That made it very motivating. And then whenever I put energy in, I was getting more out than I had in other business endeavors. And that just made me double down and, work 12 hours a day to make something of it. So I think at the core, what most people don't realize is that we're helpful to people raising capital because that gets us deal flow. We're helpful to people starting a family office or looking at how to invest because that gets us the investor relationships under contract. And it's the ecosystem and the two sides combined, which really create a lot of the productivity. A lot of people say, oh, we're a conference company, or we're consultants, or we're a data company. And then they're boxed in based on that definition versus creating an ecosystem or a platform, somewhat like you have.
Yeah, because what's interesting is when we first started, and again, we looked at you as a model because you were building these, this incredible community with single family offices, multifamily offices. We wanted to take that idea, and we had these conversations. I remember clearly. My idea was, hey, let's take this idea down to virtual family offices and make them smaller and maybe supercharge elite CPAs and bring the family office space down from the billionaire space down to even millionaires, even go, bypass the centimillionaires and people that you deal with, we deal with them as well. We've learned a lot from building that. In fact, the things that we've learned and are focused on now are things that are different than we thought we were focused on when we were building the community. I'm just curious, as you're building this huge, amazing network that you said you got both sides, do you have something that you came up with that you weren't even intending to build at the time when you started?
Yeah, I think three things. One is we found on the capital raising side, everyone raising capital, even if you equip them with strategies, they can't implement the strategies typically without help. And so we have a investor relations agency that just helps put into practice best practices on, pitch decks and websites and positioning themselves with a brand name that's not just their last name that means nothing or a Greek god or something. So that's pitchdecks.com. We've had that, turn into what will be a 7-figure business next year and close to that this year without any advertising. The second thing is that we have spent a decade negotiating on, and then we just acquired last month, commercialrealestate.com. And about 35 to 40% of all of our conversations last year out of 45,000 people were about real estate or real estate clients. So that's just going to strengthen that sleeve of our business. But I never thought that would be a big division of our company. But when people make money, whether it's protein bars or a virtual family office hub thing, and they have an exit, or they're just making $2-3 million a year, a lot of them want sleep at night real estate, and they want to be acquiring real estate consistently that produces income, maybe a little bit of development real estate, tax efficient real estate, of course. And so we see that as a real common thing that we didn't really plan on from the start. And then the third thing, which I think is most important to mention, is that investors complain about very similar things at our live events. I've heard them at 150 of our events talk about people with misaligned fees or high management fees or just structures that are not aligned. And we also hear that most wealth management firms are not equipped to help investors with direct investments. If you go to your average wealth advisor, whether it's a Goldman Sachs or a local independent RIA that's charging you a flat fee and is totally objective and third party agnostic from products, and you say, oh, I want to invest in this apartment building downtown, 98% of them will say, oh, well, why don't you look at this REIT instead? It's liquid. I can point, click, print out a nice report from you, and we don't have to go walk the building and look at the roof of the property. Or they'll just say, okay, well, be careful, and don't forget, we can put you in this real estate fund so I can still make my fee off of you. So even though they're unbiased, they're highly biased to keep your assets on their platform and make their life easy. And that breaks down with the ultra wealthy. They're going to go out and do that investment anyways with nobody advising them, with horrible deal flow, without a due diligence checklist or experience in that area. And so the unknown thing that we did starting, several years ago, consulting with family offices on this, and now through our privateequity.com investor platform, is we have set up a performance fee only direct investment solution. So if clients invest in 3 direct investments through our platform and one loses money, then there's no fees across all the investments and across years until we make them back the money. We're not making $1 here while they're losing $1 there. And in Wall Street, for some reason, that's really rare. And we never planned on that.
Well, it's, what's interesting is, you think like a business owner. You think like the patriarch of a family office, which you're there or you're on your way or you're extremely successful because your mindset is thinking how is the owner, the patriarch of a family office going to take this structure? And that's how we live too. That's how we think too. I'm thinking in terms of the business owner. He wants cash flow. He doesn't want to pay taxes. He doesn't want to go to jail. We're going to need law firms, CPA firms to protect him. And then he just wants the benefits. Your clients just want the same thing on the cash flow side from the investment. And they don't want to be treated by someone who doesn't really understand what the mindset of this patriarch is. And I think the fact that you really think like them and can fill in their blind spots, which is what I think really what building I came from the Chicago Board of Trade, the Merck and the CBOE, which were self-policing membership organizations, right? We didn't need, when someone made a mistake down there, so if I say buy and someone say sell, if someone violated that verbal agreement, that's a huge problem. We don't call the police, we don't call the FBI, it's self-policing organizations, we're going to take care of it. I think that you created something, I created something. These communities are really self-policing organizations because there's real players involved and they don't want to see anyone join. I'm sure you don't want to see anyone join your community is going to upset that community. I don't either, but there's a lot of benefits that happen when you build a community of such powerful business owners who specialize in different things. And that self-policing mechanism, I think, creates a lot of benefit. I don't know if you can speak on that. If you have.
Yeah, for sure. I think I refer to it as kind of like building bridges that nobody wants to have burned. Like we have our clients investing with investment firms sometimes we've known for years, and they might be able to raise 5 or 10 or $20 million plus through our investors over time. And it just encourages them to treat our investors well and do what they say they're going to do. It just makes the whole thing more sticky versus if it wasn't that community, because they have one more reason to treat the investor well besides them being an investor. If they're tied to us, we can, maybe negotiate the fees or structure, but more importantly, make sure they're treated well. And, to the first part of what you said, when we first started hosting events, that was a big part of our business. And it was 80% of our revenue at one point. It's funny because I'd have more sophisticated, ultra wealthy in the room, and they would count the number of heads in the room and count how much I was charging. And even if it was, $15 a head and we had a couple hundred people in there, they would say, oh, well, you're only doing, 5 to 6 of these events a year or 8 of these events a year at the time. Obviously, you're not making a living off of just doing the conferences. The real money is in the relationships in the room and actually getting real business done, right? And at that time, embarrassingly, that it was pretty much my whole business was doing the events at one point. But they made it very obvious that, I was a fool if I thought that was the end-all goal is to host family office conferences. And so they made me really think about, what's the business within my business and how do I vertically expand and not just get stuck in a rut.
I would also imagine, just based on my experience with our community, and watching what you're doing without knowing too much detail, because I'm not inside like you are. One of the cool things that we have in our community is we have these elite CPAs working with elite attorneys or elite specialists who are the best in what they do in their tax planning specialty. And we'll take their idea and some questions that someone raised and then rip it apart. And then naturally, our community members, whether they're attorneys or CPAs, they'll come up with the solution for the specialist. Now, I imagine that's happening with you all the time because, your brain is massive. You have all this experience and all this insight working with so many family offices and their inner workings. You're obviously a master of marketing, all these other pieces. And then you have someone promoting some idea, right? And they're a specialist. So they come in your organization, they share their idea. You're probably come up with the ideas. Their family office is probably coming up with ideas of how to make that idea better. Is that happening all the time inside your organization?
Yeah, for sure. We're working on a dental clinic deal right now, and I've never practiced as a dentist, of course, but out of our 275 investors that we have signed, on that platform I mentioned, we have about 15 that are dentists and doctors. And so by going to them first, and they'll know more than I'll ever know about that space, we can look at the deal, meet with the team, look through the financials, et cetera. But going through and having the dentist dig into that and the dentist ask these pointed questions is something that is really beneficial. And, just like your platform growing the number of CPAs, it's more likely you can find the niche expert who, if they haven't focused 10,000 hours on that one little niche of historical tax credits, then they might not know all the nuances of navigating to make something work so that it's kind of sleep at night, high conviction, and structured as best as possible.
Yeah, it's a really simple idea. I didn't come up with it. You didn't come up with it. We're just, I'm watching Bezos. Basically he's putting everyone out of business. He's forcing Walmart to change their entire business model just to compete with him. You and I studied Walmart at business schools and how they're monopolies. They're not a monopoly anymore. Netflix, what they did to Blockbuster Video, this idea of independent peer review with experts, with the top people in these specialties. I focus on sophisticated tax planning and those specialties. You've got all these different specialties because you have leaders, family office leaders who've established themselves in all these different professions, right? And maybe they're number one, number two, number three in all these different industries. And I'm fascinated by having a community like this and be able to go to them for different projects, for different feedback, because I don't rely on myself for tax planning expertise. I've gained that over a decade working there, but I go to these experts who are, and I don't want to hear what financial advisors have to say or estate planning attorneys have to say about sophisticated tax planning because they don't have 10,000 hours or more of experience there. You have access to a bunch of masters who have 10,000 plus hours in all these different specialties. And if I were you, I'd be going to them all the time to just try to capture their knowledge, and basically build it into a center in the center of your organization so that other people can access it. Speak on that, because like I said, I'm not in there. I wish I was.
Sure. Yeah. I think related to that, hearing what the masses are saying, the masses of ultra wealthy are saying, has made us realize that there's family offices that invest in very early stage ventures in the industry where they created their wealth. And there's some people who just focus on VC angel stuff exclusively. But what's harder to find, because there's 10,000 angel investor groups out there these days, what's harder to find are conservative, high quality collateral income deals, or structuring deals at gross revenue royalty, or finding a profitable company that someone can invest in passively or acquire. And being able to find the best practices down the fairway of what we know investors are looking for in a structure that's friendly for them, and then find something of that quality, and then bring in those best practices of not only tax efficiency, but how to structure it in an aligned way, and drawing upon the experts and the opinions and just the common frustration and opportunity that's left open by that gap in the marketplace has really been something that we've been honing in on. And I think that many times the ultra wealthy feel like they're a bit lost because the wealth advisors aren't really serving them. Yeah. Their CPA is not doing any proactive tax planning. And they just say, this is a mess. And that's why they want maximum control. So they know they could do better. It'd be better than what they're getting right now. And they're looking for those best practices.
I just, and I get you. I think what you and I are really doing, and what you and I are really talking about, is really due diligence, is facilitating due diligence, and creating communities that eliminate the challenges when it comes to due diligence. Because we're living in a world right now where there's too much information. 100 years ago, people needed information. Now we're just overwhelmed. And what you're doing is you're just saying, look, let's get rid of all this information. Let's focus on the critical information that's coming from these entities that these other groups want, and we're going to just only have these special people who are at the top of their game in this community sharing information. And that's, at the end of the day, what we've done as well in the due diligence project. And I'm just, again, it's hard because we don't really have any competition to go to. I'm looking at you as a leader in our community, even though we don't compete with each other. We're completely doing two different things. In fact, there's so many synergies between our two companies. I'm just saying, okay, what else are you doing that we could be doing? And what are we doing that you could be doing? Because building these incredible communities of professionals in a world where most professionals are not really sought out anymore for the reasons that you're saying, because they're not masters of a specialty. There may be just salespeople, which the value of a salesperson today is not nearly what it was 10, 20 years ago. Right now, people want the essence. They want essential things. They want essentially useful people with incredible knowledge to bring value. And if that's not happening, they don't want them on that team. So I think there's a tremendous value of just building this community and joining other communities in a way where we keep people out that have proven that they don't deserve to be a part of it in a self-policing type fashion. So
right.
I'm excited to see that. And like I said, I'm excited to continue to bring, introduce our clients and our clients to you, and to be able to use your resources, because you're offering a lot of different things that our community doesn't really focus on. And so we're looking at you as best in class of creating this peer-reviewed investment kind of network. And we're excited to be able to, because we're doing all this massive tax elimination, tax planning, and we have all this cash from taxes saved that needs to go to work. And obviously the business owners know they could put that in their own businesses. As the landscape is changing, having access to thought leaders who are leaders in creating wealth outside of tax planning is really, really attractive to us. So being able to join forces with you and figure out how to create this synergy is really exciting for us, because we're really good on that tax side, and that money's got to go to work, and it doesn't need to go into the business owner's primary business anymore. So
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that there's a big lack of confidence in tax strategies. Even when a family office has shown something smart, they don't know if it's so smart that it's seen as trickery by the IRS, and they're going to end up in jail because of it. So they end up doing nothing because they don't know who to trust. I'm sure you've had that conversation 2,000 times. And then also, I'm in a business owner club where I just go to one meeting per quarter for $50,000 a year. And I would say 80% of the people in that club are making $1 million or millions of dollars a year. And 80% of them also do not have a real estate strategy, because they're used to being very smart in their life, and they know what smart feels like. And then they see the average Joe buying a single family residential rental property. They know that's probably dumb, unless they have some twist on that doesn't make them part of the herd. And again, they end up doing almost nothing, sitting on cash, and just sticking to their operating business because that's what they know, and they feel smart, and they are being smart there. And it's without that tax piece or the structure piece or unique strategy. I think you need both. Then a lot of these business owners are just sitting on cash, and they're not sure what to put their money to work in, especially when the markets ran up like crazy at a point like this.
Yeah, no, listen, this is why I'm in the space I'm in. You took on one of the most competitive spaces in the biggest industry in the world, the money space, and you're dominating and you're leading, and it's really impressive. I'm like, I don't want to be like Richard. I don't want to compete where there's so much competition, even though you've eliminated them by building your model. I'm in a space where there's massive disconnect. Okay, 18% of Fortune 500 companies zero out their tax return. 18%, which means 82% of the most profitable, largest revenue generating companies in the world don't know how to do what 18% are doing every day, every year. And what our group is doing is we're bridging the gap between the 18% that know how to do tax planning and the 82% that have no clue. And you're absolutely right. You get these people out of their comfort zone, they just do nothing. And it's a blind spot. So we've done a lot of videos just like you have. And we talk about the 10 pillars of extraordinary due diligence. We talk about the blind spots that exist in 4 out of 5 family offices when it comes to sophisticated tax planning. They're really good at making money. They're really good at investing. But when it comes to tax planning, they're really bad at it. So what we're doing is we're just using an independent peer-reviewed community of former KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, all these tax geniuses who left their big boxy firms, formed small specialty shops, and as an independent peer-reviewed community, when they have a chance to look at something 2, 3, 4 times, ask their questions, get their questions answered, and work in this community of people only with 10,000 or more hours of tax planning expertise or experience, they're now masters. If we get 20 or 30 conservative CPAs to say this tax strategy is good after it's ripped apart, That gives us tremendous confidence. That does not happen in 4 or 5 family offices. That's not happening in 4 or 5 Fortune 500 companies. When they are offered an idea, they bring it to some estate planning attorney or some attorney. Are they the best in the world? I don't know. Some advisor, they don't have 10,000 hours of sophisticated tax planning experience. So all of a sudden, you're asking these people who are supposedly smart what they think. They're not going to say, I don't know. The best ones will say, I have no idea. They're just honest. Now, 99% of them are going to say something that's not, I don't know. And that creates this whole thing now it's going sideways. So now someone gave the business owner some good advice, and now he's getting advice from all these people who are not masters. They should not be commenting. And now it's like there's 7 answers, and let's average it all out. And here's what we get. And now, you could look at Congress, and that's what we do. Instead of actually coming up with good ideas, let's take everyone's idea and rip it apart, vote on it, and here's what we got.
Right.
Not that
good.
It
makes a lot of sense.
I guarantee you, your family office leaders did not achieve $1 billion wealth making decisions like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's why they get frozen, right? The people they trust most don't know how to navigate proactively the tax code, because either before they weren't ultra wealthy, so their advisors aren't even at the family office level, or the people doing their books are not hyper focused on the proactive tax planning. And we definitely see that gap as well. So definitely look forward to working together. Like I said, we just onboarded a client this morning, is making 1 to 3 million every year. And he literally said, I've got a big tax headache. So anything tax efficient.
Richard, this is all we do. But the thing we do is we educate the CPA behind the scenes, so their client's not there. We don't want the CPA or the attorney to be embarrassed in front of their client. They want to ask their questions, get their questions answered. Maybe it takes 2 or 3 conversations. We create that facility for the CPAs, for these attorneys, to get their education, to get comfortable or not comfortable, and to access all the notes and the details of all of our other independent community members. And so I can share here the notes of all these things, and boom, in a matter of 15 minutes, you can see the notes, form some questions, do your own due diligence, and reduce. That's really what we do. And look, we've learned a lot from you. You built this incredible community. We've just modeled it a little bit, did it on the tax planning side, focused on maybe some smaller clients. Of course, we're dealing with billionaire clients as well. But just really excited about your success, and just want to continue to encourage you to keep going, because regardless of your success that you're benefiting from and your clients and your membership's benefiting from, I'm letting you know that you are a leader in our space. There's a lot of people watching you that are getting inspired by your success. You're trailblazing. And so keep going. You're benefiting a lot of other people who are also trailblazing in other spaces. And I just want to encourage you. And I'm excited that got a chance to interview you. By the way, what is something interesting about you that no one knows? I mean, we've uncovered that you played some water polo and soccer. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm a 3rd generation Eagle Scout, and I don't drink. I've never smoked a cigar. Don't enjoy cannabis. So I'm pretty boring. I guess maybe you could tell that, and that is known about me. But I just like going camping and being with the family, and doing sports and outdoor stuff with the family all the time. And a lot of people in the industry are going to happy hour and lighting up a cigar to celebrate something. I've got nothing against that. It's just not who I am by nature.
That's cool. How many kids do you have?
3 kids.
3 kids, huh? Boy, girl, or?
All girls.
All girls. Girl dad. You know what? You're a lucky guy. I got 2 boys, 2 girls, so I know the difference, and that's awesome. Cool. Listen, this was great. Looking forward to our next interview. We've uncovered a lot. This was amazing. I think our audience is really going to appreciate this, and have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for joining the Due Diligence Project podcast, my friend.
Yeah, awesome. Happy to have you on our podcast too, real soon here. Appreciate it. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.
That's all for this episode of the Due Diligence Project podcast. Be sure to visit duediligenceproject.com to access the resources we have available for qualified CPAs and family office leaders. Our mission at the Due Diligence Project is to help you deliver more significance and value to your very best clients while shifting your traditional practice into the firm of the future.